This is going to be the City of Port Richey CRA Board Special Meeting for Thursday, July 1st, 2021. At this time, let's stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Chairman Scott Tremblay.
Here.
Member William Dittmer.
Here.
Member Jenny Sorrell.
Here.
Member Todd McClary.
Here.
Member Tom Kinsella.
Here.
City Attorney James Matthew.
Here.
City Manager John Duke.
Here. Thank you. Before we get started, normally we have comments from general public, manager, CRA board, plus, and then we get into business. This is a special meeting, so the only thing that we can talk about tonight is what's on the agenda. So I wanted to go straight to the agenda, but going into not the agenda, council business, but going into council business in our one item, if there's anyone that wants to make any statements as it pertains to our one item, which is authorization or discussion to purchase real property at Old Post and Cody River. If there's any discussion or comment from the public, you guys are welcome to come up. Nobody signed up except for Mr. Grimes. Mr. Grimes is not here, however, I think he put a statement in.
Correct, yes, sir.
Okay, does the statement, have you read it?
I have not read it yet, sir.
Okay, let's take a look at it first before we put it in. Okay, the content of the statement has to do with the one item. So is there a motion to?
Motion to accept.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we're going to accept the statement, and I was going to pass this to the clerk and have her publish it. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Michael Grimes, 5440 Quist Drive. The purchase of 7925 Old Post Road and 5443 Cody Avenue is another step forward in the city improving the Cody River landing. I support this purchase and applaud the mayor and the city manager for bringing it to the table.
Okay, anyone else like to make any statements before we start from the public? Seeing no hands, at this time, I'm going to invite Mr. Duke to introduce council business item 1, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The issue before you is two properties that have come up for sale. They've been publicly noticed. They're available to the public. One at 7925 Old Post, the other at 5443 Coty Avenue. They are adjoining properties, a single owner for both properties. Each is listed publicly for $175,000 each. One was built, they both have a single residence on them. So there's two residences, one on each property. I believe both of them are 2-bedroom rental properties at this time. And as soon as I was aware that they were available, it looked to me like this was something that the CRA board should at least consider. And so I made contact with the realtor. I walked the property on Friday. Both homes are leased and have tenants in them, so there'd be some challenges with that, something that we'd have to work through. But the realtor told me I was first to make contact, and so we are first in line, as salesmen are prone to do. He told me that undoubtedly there would be several more. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But I wanted to make this available to you as the CRA board for consideration. It strikes me as something that gives us the opportunity to control the final destiny of that property, make sure that it fits in with the plan that the CRA board and the city have for the Coty River Landing area in general. My suggestion, if you decide you want to purchase and it all works out, in fairly short order, once the properties are empty, we could go through the demolition process, and at least in the short term, it's pretty easy, time and money, but pretty easy to turn those into parking, and I know that's something that's been of interest to board members, to city council, to members of the public, even to property owners down there. So I wanted to put all that together and put it in front of you for your consideration, and either a yes or no, and I'll proceed however you tell me to proceed.
Thank you. If I may, this is property that I saw hit the market from day one. I saw the value. I think the list price was $175 for each property, for a total of $350 for both lots. And really, when I saw the property come open, and I know that we're in the process of redeveloping the waterfront overlay district, or Cody River Landing now, if you will, it kind of fit into the purpose of what CRA is really about. CRA is really to cure blight, and a lot of times to repurpose the land usage. And here you have basically rental properties in the middle of a commercial area, which really doesn't fit the land use for what the city is looking to do, number one. Number two, those homes are blighted. They built in the 50s, and they don't look like they've been remodeled or any improvements in a very long time. So obviously, given those different factors with these properties, utilizing CRA funding may be a good idea to cure or to help with the blight issue down there, and to repurpose that property and have some control over that property so we can utilize it for what we're wanting to do as a city. And the question isn't whether or not it's a decent purchase in my mind. The question is whether or not, number one, we have enough money, and number two, it's affordable for the city, or the price is right for the city. So I think those are some of the topics for discussion.
I'll go next. I'm not 100% sold on the purchase of these properties for a couple reasons. One, I'll start with the money portion of it. The $350,000, although affordable by the CRA, I know we are already starting to get some pushback from our residents in other areas outside of the waterfront overlay district. Why is the city putting so much funds into the waterfront overlay district? Right now, we've committed conceivably anywhere from at least $500,000 to up to $3 million in improvements for sidewalks, et cetera, for that. This is a further extension on top of that investment in the waterfront, where that money could also be used in other areas of the city and kind of put it in an investment across the city. Grand Avenue needs sidewalks. There are various residential areas saying they need sidewalks, which this money could go for as well. The second portion is it's not really a $350,000 investment. It's actually somewhere closer to the $420,000 to $450,000 investment. I know we have a estimate here for $15,000 for geotech for striping, grass area, I believe it is, and that. I'm not sure how a public entity opening a parking lot can get by ADA with a grass parking area. I know Whiskey River does it because they have their handicap parking right by the restaurant and their overflow parking. I'm not sure how we would get past that, opening that as a standalone parking area for ADA compliance, which we don't have to answer that now. The problem is that is going to then increase your investment more towards the $70,000 end of the range versus the $15,000. So now we're talking $420,000 in that investment, including lights, lighting, and everything else. I think that's where we were sitting with the higher end of that investment. So the investment's growing. what do we get out of that for that investment? It doesn't necessarily tie in with our current plan for that area, i.e. we had side street parking, so now we're going to have to be adding in that parking area for it. But does that solve our issues within the restaurants? Most of the restaurants have their designed, in that area, have their designed parking allotment. And if we substantially change the usage of that area, i.e. the Nick's Park boat ramp, we're now drastically changing the traffic patterns. Do we need all this parking in there for that current usage? If Seaside changes, grows, does something, we're now, whatever they put in for Seaside, we'll have to have parking to support Seaside's usage by code, unless they come for a variance. What I'm saying is, I'm not sure I see the use for parking. To me, the city is not a speculator. We should not be involved in speculation. So trying to hold that land and seeing what kind of deal we can make, that's not the place of the city. The land's already zoned C3, so it is commercial by its very nature. Both parcels are zoned C3. So they're residential in usage, but they're not residential in zonage. Someone could come in tomorrow, knock that down and put in a business of some sort. Nothing stopping them without any kind of variances. So that's really my concerns across the area. I'm not sure what we're solving. We're spending a lot of money over and above what we're already spending there, where we could use it in other areas. So that's my piece.
Well, Todd brought up a few really good points. I think parking will always be an issue down there, regardless with the street parking. Even when we do the one-way, I think it's always going to be an issue for parking. And I'm not sure, we can check on that, Mr. Dukan, about the ADA, but I'm not sure when you have a remote lot like that, it's typically, the parking has to be so many feet towards the entrance of the building for ADA compliance, from what I remember.
Unless it's a standard. You're starting to get into a lot of...
There's, yeah, because I read part of that as well. So we'd have to look into that also. I'm actually for it because I think we can use it for parking down the line. As far as speculating and resale kind of thing, I'm not even putting that on the table at this point. I don't think the city should be involved in that. Between that, I think we checked, was it somewhere between 35 and 50 cars could possibly fit in that?
Yeah, yes, sir. The most conservative estimate would be about 35 spots, depending on lights and sidewalks and other amenities. Could be more, but conservatively 35.
Okay, 35, and then with the one-ways, having the one-way parking and parking along the roadside, I think that could almost solve that downtown, I mean, our little downtown area's parking issues. Seaside area has been sold, so we know that, and whatever they put in there, they're going to have to put parking to accommodate their own people, which won't help public parking at all. So, because Whiskey Joe's, if you look at, they've got theirs posted. Whiskey Joe's customers only.
Catches supports themselves from a parking perspective.
Yes.
Whiskey Joe's supports themselves. Hooters supports themselves. Seaside will support itself. Gill Dog and Pirate Bar are the only two that are laggards in terms of parking, but Gill Dog has the last project that was brought before council had parking for Gill Dog. What are we solving?
Well, I just think once this is developed, I think the influx of people will be
But anything
quite
that
large.
develops will have to have parking by its very nature.
But there'll be other people coming down to use even Waterfront Park. That's a walking distance to Waterfront Park. There's a lot of things that we can use. We have fireworks displays. You should, I don't know about you, but they park all down Bay Boulevard.
Yeah,
We have 4th of
I understand,
July.
but
So-
we're spending $450,000 for a once in a year event at that point.
Well, no, I think there'll be more once, I believe, once it's a developed area, we're going to see an influx of more people.
But once it's developed, you also will technically have parking to support whatever's being developed,
Technically, we have enough right now, but we don't.
because you have the boat ramp. A lot of what you see from that is boat ramp, which is actually being covered by
But that's
the
in that private
vacant
lot
lots.
anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, whatever happens in that area let's say that private lot gets developed tomorrow and the boat ramp goes away. Whatever goes in that private lot will have parking to support that private lot by code.
I think if the boat ramp goes away, that lot will become available.
And can I just kind of weigh in a little bit? In terms of buying it to resell it, absolutely not. That's not why we're here. That's not why we're here. Where I thought we should look at it. I think that if we're going to repurpose the property, it's nice to have some kind of city-controlled property down there, and we really have none. I mean, what do we really have for property other than the park? We're Nick's.
We have Bridge Street and Treadway.
Yeah, but that's not enough to do much of anything with. And I guess the reason I liked the idea is because whether we use it for parking, whether we want a wider road there, whether we want to put better sidewalks there. I mean, you can repurpose that piece of property for about any purpose. And there's a lot of different municipal purposes for that type of piece of property. And you know, I think that because we lack other pieces of property down there, that's why I liked it, or liked the idea. And I certainly don't think this is something where we should buy it because maybe we can get a better deal and sell it down the road. Absolutely not. It's just simply because right now you have kind of two beat-up old homes, and really the purpose of CRA is to repurpose that property and utilize it for municipal purposes. And you know, there's been a lot of talk about parking, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a parking lot. It can be a lot of other potential things. So as we develop the area, we just have a lot more options. And that's just why I brought it there, and that's why I was supporting the idea of having a little bit of extra property down there for the city to be able to do or have a little bit of flexibility with as we move forward with developing that area.
Well, I asked Mr. Dude if we'd run real estate comps just to find out where we are with that. And he said we do have somebody looking into that and will be getting back to us on those.
Correct. There is an appraisal that's been ordered. The appraiser told me that she would have that completed by next Thursday, and it would include comps. And you know, that will give you an idea of what the property is worth with the homes on it.
Mr. Mayor, could I speak?
Yes.
Correct, not legally correct. There's certain legal issues here that I think you need to know. On that issue there, you will not get the comp until the deal has already been signed. So it's useless to us as part of what you're deciding today. It's kind of hard to explain, but we have to get an appraisal, so you order it. And problem with this deal, it doesn't mean you have to buy it within the appraisal, but you're not going to be able to use that appraisal for your decision-making process. And let me tell you something. And just with regard to the deal today, I feel I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't go over the details of it, because it is somewhat unusual, okay? It's a cash deal, which I think you know. It's 10% down. They want this signed by tomorrow. The date on the agreement for sale, this is the offer that we have, has to be signed tomorrow morning, and they have till the end of the day to sign their end of it, okay? We are foregoing all inspections, all right? I know Mr. Dute's done some homework on the septic systems and those kind of things. It's tenant occupied. At the one property, I can tell you which is which here, but this is a lease that was just signed 1 month ago, May 1st. And it's a year lease, runs to May 1st of 22. We would have to keep the building in repair. We would have to, we have a tenant, okay, and it'd have to be habitable. The rent is $725 a month. We would get that, and they pay all the utilities. And I'm not trying to sour the deal in any way, but people generally sometimes don't leave when they're supposed to leave, so there could be an eviction, it could be a bankruptcy, things like that, but none of it's a problem, you understand? But that will be occupied until next May.
That's why we have a city attorney.
I'm looking forward to doing the work. But if it came up, somebody's going to say, Jim, why didn't you tell me, right? So I'm telling you now, you sign this, and I'm going to tell you the one part at the end, okay? The other property, it's got an air conditioner, stove, refrigerator, they break down, we fix them. That lease runs until January of next year. They pay $850 a month, the same kind of comments. Put the money down, you can't change your mind, okay, for any reason, since there's no inspections and we're just, we're not going into the buildings. The property is zoned WOD, which is an overlay district, okay? C3 for the area is the underlying zoning. The zoning is in the waterfront overlay district, okay? And that is more restrictive on uses than the C3 zoning, okay? Presently, residences have been grandfathered in, and that's why they're there. Once you knock it down, it will be bound not by C3, but by WOD. Not that that changes much in light of the comments you made. Okay, that's kind of why I'm looking at you. Any questions about the deal? Bottom line, you agree to do this, it'll be signed. They have till the end of the day tomorrow, July 2nd, to agree to it. Can't back out of it, and it's over, okay? And this was all done because they were getting ready to go out and accept bids. Mr. Doot went through a lot of trouble to make this happen. We got this, thing together. We had several phone calls, and the agreement sitting right here would have to be signed by the mayor. Property would be owned by the city of Port Richey. Okay, if it's ever sold in the future, that money would go back to the CRA. Any questions about the details? Not that I'm trying to scare anybody here. Okay, and you'd have to knock the buildings down, evict the tenants. Those are the only two odd things about it. Thank you.
Do we even have staff to deal with renters for the next year?
Mr. Dute's putting on his landlord cap.
Yeah.
We have a telephone, so all you gotta do is call someone up if the air conditioning's not working. So there's really not, I don't see that as a, as a practical thing. As a matter of fact, it's kind of easy because if the window's broken, we have Public Works to go over and fix it. I don't think that's a, real issue. I know Mr. Doot and I have discussed those kind of things. I just wanted everybody to know if we couldn't get them out by next May, Jim, what do what's gonna happen?
And I was wondering, what about, I know actually getting people out during, is any of that
thank you.
COVID stuff still?
Yeah, you can sue someone, get a judgment, but the sheriff's office presently, pursuant to federal law, cannot serve a writ of possession. That means they physically can't remove them. The CDC extended that for one more month until the 1st of next month. According to the present federal administration, they are not going to do that again. Whether they do, from everything I've read and some legal journals, it most likely won't happen. There's thousands and thousands in the Sixth Circuit here of writs of possession waiting to be to go out. So chance of that is slim, but there's no guarantee, sir.
Mr. Kinsella.
I agree a lot with what our vice mayor was saying. It's an opportunity for the city to have a little bit of control down there. We as citizens, we want to see this Cody River Landing to grow, and what we're seeing now, I feel, is just a portion of what potentially could happen down there. And again, I understand any other businesses coming along having to provide their parking, but still having that opportunity where we have that footprint, where we have a little bit of control and that overflow parking when we have events, to include even at the waterfront park, having a place for them to park. But I like this idea.
Councilwoman Searle.
I like having a presence in the WOD. I think it's proper use of the CRA money because we are supposed to be taking care of blighted areas, and I think that next year we can move on to other areas for sidewalks and that sort of thing. People have been asking for us to make some kind of changes in the WOD since I've been in office, which is 5 years now, God, forever. And I think this would be a positive move for us to have a presence in the WOD and to be participating with the businesses down there. Parking will be an issue in that area for the rest of our natural lives. It's always going to be, it always will be, and until something happens with the old trailer park, we have no idea whether the parking will ever improve. So I'm all for this because I think we need a presence in the WOD, and I think it's a proper use of the CRA money.
And This is something, the reason that I put it on for an emergency is in our current housing market and real estate market, properties are moving really quick. So if it was put on 3 weeks from now, I don't think we'd be having this discussion. I would imagine it'd probably already be resolved one way or the other. So I think if we're going to move any further, we would need a motion.
Motion to approve purchase of property at 7925 Old Post Road and 5443 Cody Avenue.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Before we vote, there's some folks from the general public. I want to allow them to comment on this particular item. Come on up. And just remember, please kind of stay on topic with this one item, please.
What do you think I'm gonna say? Caitlin Overbeck. I just have a question. So as we're listening to the discussion, is the city allowed to profit? So we're gonna have a lease. Are we allowed to make money and bring in, I know like sometimes there's all these rules, we will be profiting money off of a rental property. So I don't know if that's a question that we should address. The other thing is if the city is in charge of rentals, it's a liability. If anything happens at that, the city is gonna be responsible. So I feel like it opens us up for liabilities. And it's our tax money potentially fixing rental properties. I feel like those are low on the rental income. 2-bedroom houses don't go for $750, but I don't know anything about what they look like. I think it is good to have parking down there, but I kind of feel like $400,000 for 40 spots, I don't really know if that's a great investment. But my bigger concerns is the city liability and are we allowed to make money? Because I know sometimes we're not allowed to profit. So that's the only thing I wanted to bring up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Mueller, come on up.
Dave Mueller, 5439 Blue Point Drive. I've been in the rental business for 35 years. Normally, rental agreements are assignable. I don't know if this one is. Normally, you have a provision in agreement where a property is sold, the individual can be moved out of the property 30, 60 days, whatever the agreement stipulates. I don't know if you guys have really thoroughly vetted the rental agreement. Take a look there. Other options. Eric's got a property not too far from there. At one point in time, I believe he made an offer to the city to sell that property, which is much larger. Price per square foot, I don't know what those are. Might be a phone call to him and find out if he's willing to do whatever. That might be a better scenario if you're looking for that. Just some other things to consider. I kind of lean toward what Todd was indicating. Do we really need these two parcels in an obscure place? Would it be better to have something the size of the trailer park? Just a thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller. I still see some members of the public. No hands going up. We'll come back for discussion, and or if you guys no further discussion, we'll put it to a vote.
Is there an opportunity to look further into those two leases, as Mr. Mueller said about if there is? I can comment on that.
Yeah.
You know, I have the leases. I've spent a considerable amount of time reviewing them. Any and all residential property that's sold are automatically assignable to the new buyer, but regardless of that, in the agreement is specific language for the assignment. Assignments will be prepared at the time of settlement. As far as all local governments can own property. More important issue is it's a CRA, and the purpose you're doing this, I presume from what I'm hearing, if you do this, is to get control of the use, okay, for blighted conditions or whatever, whether you want to do that or not, to lease property, not for purposes of a profit, but just for to control the use while there's a lease. There is not any problem whatsoever. None of those issues are. The leases have been reviewed. I went through the details. We have them. They're rather scant leases, but they're valid, and they'll turn over the security deposits, prepaid rent and all that, we've taken care of that.
And then I think the second part of that is more of a discussion for us, whether or not we would want to pursue another piece of property that's down there. But it's not really been on the table, so this is kind of what's on the table at the time. So, you know, whether or not there's a better deal out there, or when I say a better deal, in terms of using CRA for a different blighted area, you know, obviously that was a blighted area that was a bunch of trailers that were knocked down at some point. You know, that's you know, a discussion. You know, if you guys say, look, you know, we think the money could be better used to cure blight over there instead of over here, you know, it's certainly a discussion to have. But I think if we kind of kick this down the road and have that discussion, this probably won't be on the table, and then we're kind of left back to square one where we came in. That's just my opinion, and I don't know how everyone else feels about that.
I think this piece of property is in a good spot for us to use, like, to maintain some control down there. I think it's a good idea. Also, I'm assuming the liability issue that was brought up would be covered by any insurance policies that we would have on the property.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mr. Doot and I have already discussed that. I'm 90% sure that our insurance will cover us because it'll be city-owned property. You'll be buying this in the city's name. And if not, well, we'll get a policy, but I don't think that's going to be necessary. Mr. Doot and I have been chatting about this for 24 hours. And by the way, just so everybody understands, and I'm trying to sour this deal, you agree to do this after tomorrow, you change your mind, it's $35,000 you don't get back, okay? That's what we're doing here. Okay.
If we do it.
If you do it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not trying to scare anyone, I'm just, you come back and say, well, Jim, I just, you know, I want to have a special meeting, okay.
One thing that I was going to ask also, I neglected to look on the disclosure sheet and everything. Is that septic or is that on city sewer?
The property is on city sewer. We were told by the property owner that there is no septic there.
Okay, so we don't have to worry about crushing and filling septic. Okay.
That's my
All right,
understanding.
thank you.
We've discussed that. We didn't. Just so everybody knows, it's not. Nobody wanted to spook the tenants there. I mean, if they're watching the thing tonight, they'll know it's being sold. These people just got in there, okay, and they got a year lease. One of them just signed the lease last month. We don't think there's a septic there, but that's a possibility. It would have to be filled, but we have no reason. And obviously, they're on our system. Mr. Doot already checked that.
Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second for the purchase of the property. Any further discussion before we put it to a vote? Hearing none, let's put it to a vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so we have, can we just poll real quick? Poll the council. Just ask everyone how they voted.
Sir, Vice Mayor,
Yay.
Councilwoman Maxwell,
Yay.
Yay.
Councilman McClary,
Nay.
Councilman Thompson.
Yay.
Okay, so 4-1 motion passes. I think that's the only item we have up, and looking for a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.